I think Conor's done. Okay, like, I really do. Conor McGregor might be done with the UFC. Now, I have to preface with the UFC. I don't think he's done with combat sports. I don't even think he's done with MMA. But Conor McGregor's lately been doing a lot of press for his new movie, the Roadhouse remake with Jake Gyllenhaal, which honestly looks kind of fire. I'm very excited to watch it. But he's been doing a lot of press for that. Like, all these interviews that you're seeing, like, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, these interviews aren't for a UFC event. Which is weird. You grew up watching Conor McGregor do these press events for the UFC, and now we're seeing him do it for a movie. An Amazon Prime original movie. Kind of wild. And Conor McGregor is talking about the frustration with competing for the UFC. To give you all a little bit of backstory here, I like to give a little bit of backstory. Feel free to skip, I have timestamps down below. But to give you how we got to this point. So Conor McGregor's been out for a while. Snapped his leg against Dustin Poirier. We all know this. So Conor McGregor, it has to do a comeback fight. He did a season with Michael Chandler. Season, wasn't it 31, 32? It was one of those. I'm sorry. I just refuse to count the seasons. McGregor versus Chandler. Not a great season, I'll just admit it. It wasn't a phenomenal season of The Ultimate Fighter. It is what it is. But Chandler versus McGregor is a fight that they've been trying to make for about 2 years now. And Chandler has sacrificed the entire later part of his career to potentially get a fight with Conor. But Conor McGregor still hasn't come back. Conor McGregor said that he was going to be coming back at UFC 296. That didn't happen. USADA had a big stink over Conor's return. That's actually the reason that USADA cited for leaving, is they didn't like the treatment that the UFC wanted USADA to give Conor, opposed to other athletes. They wanted to expedite the return process. And then Conor, on New Year's, says that he wants to come back in June, International Fight Week. And then Dana White comes out and says that's not going to happen. I don't know who confirmed that. I don't know why he said that. Basically saying, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. We'll tell you when you're coming back, Conor. And then Conor's all confused. And then confirms in other Instagram videos and interviews, yeah, no, I'm coming back International Fight Week in June, in the summer. And then Dana White says, no, we're going to be doing autumn. What is going on? Now Conor is going in these press events that he's doing for the fucking Roadhouse movie and talking about how he's lost the motivation to compete. That is very alarming, because when a normal UFC fighter says they've lost the motivation or the hunger to fight in the UFC anymore, there's nothing a few dollar signs isn't going to fix. But here's the problem. At what amount of money do you give Conor to motivate somebody that's on track to be a billionaire? What amount of money motivates that man that you aren't going to lose money in a UFC event? This is how crazy it's gotten, by the way. That the UFC is actually weighing out their options over where they can put Conor McGregor to where they'll make money and where they'll lose money. Conor McGregor wanted to be the headliner of UFC 306 at the Sphere. They told him no. Do you know who is on track to be the headliner of that? When I mean by on track, I mean is the most plausible option. Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili. That is the fight that is closest to being the main event of UFC 306. Everybody wants to be the main event of that. And Conor was told, no, we're not going to do Conor McGregor. And he said Nate Diaz. Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz will not be the headliner of UFC 306. And now the UFC wants to renegotiate their contract with Conor. This is all confirmed stuff, by the way, that the UFC is looking into renegotiating a contract with Conor McGregor. Understand that everything that I've heard from O'Malley's talking about how Conor's been wanting to fight. It's the UFC that's been trying to figure out where to put him. That's alarming. So when you have Conor talking about how he's arranged 2 fight camps in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and the UFC failed to give him a date, sign him a fight, and failed on their part, and now he's lost motivation to fight, to the point that he decided to film a whole movie in between his fight dates, and now the UFC wants to renegotiate a contract. Conor wants to fight at 185 pounds against Michael Chandler, ruining the whole purpose of that fight. The purpose of the Michael Chandler fight is the only reason why Michael Chandler is still ranked. Michael Chandler in one of the most stacked divisions in the entirety of the UFC right now, with people like Arman Sarukian coming up in that division. Islam Makhachev is the champion. Charles Oliveira, Beneil Dariush, all these guys in this division. The reason that Michael Chandler is still ranked despite coming off a loss is because the UFC wanted from day one to book Conor McGregor against Michael Chandler, a top 5 lightweight, because it is one of the few fights in that division that he can reasonably win. One of the only top 5 lightweight that I believe he does beat. Because if he KO'd Michael Chandler, they are going to catapult him against Islam Makhachev. And they are aware that he's probably not going to beat Islam Makhachev. But the numbers that Conor McGregor versus Islam Makhachev would do would be out of this world. Islam Makhachev would accept that fight. He would. Islam Makhachev would accept this fight. Charles would accept the fight. Everybody in the top 5 would accept the fight against Conor, but the UFC is trying to make it so Conor can fight for a belt. So by Conor wanting to do 185, because let's be real, I don't think he really wants, I think he realizes he's probably not going to fight for a belt. It's him trying to fight comfortably. And he's not going to be able to fight for a title. That's not going to happen anymore, and I think the UFC is realizing that. And these renegotiations are actually them kind of saying like, hey, Conor, we'll pay you your normal rate, but understand, contractually, you can't be the main event anymore. The day that the UFC doesn't make Conor McGregor the main event of a card is the day that Conor McGregor actually retires. That is what's going to happen. And there's now UFC fighters now that are actually going out and saying that they would rather pull out of a fight card, than be the co-main to Conor McGregor on his return. You know who said that first? John Jones. John Jones said that he will never fight on the same card as Conor McGregor if they told him that he would have to be the co-main to him. That's understandable. Conor McGregor is not fighting in that championship echelon like John Jones is. Islam Makhachev said the same thing. Islam Makhachev wanted to fight on International Fight Week. He wanted to defend his belt International Fight Week. And he laughed at the idea of Conor McGregor being above him. Ali Abdelaziz, most of his fighters don't want even not to fight on the same card as him unless they're fighting him. There's UFC fighters that aren't going to give up their spot to Conor anymore. We're out of those days. Conor McGregor might be done. And I know I opened this up with Conor McGregor is done. The only way that Conor McGregor is still going to be fighting is if they give him a fight as the main event of a numbered card. He's not going on a fight night. He is not going to be the co-main. He is going to be the main event of a fight night. Not fight night, a main event of a numbered card. And the problem is does Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor, unless you cripple the rest of the card, is that a main event anymore? On some cards, yes. In some cards, no. I would argue Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler is probably going to draw way more hype than Henry Cejudo versus Aljamain Sterling. You could put Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko as the co-main to Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. But that is the fight the UFC has been wanting to make. They're disagreeing on the weight. If Conor McGregor does 185, then the fight doesn't mean anything, and it's not going to sell as much. If they do it at 155, now this is a unofficial number 1 contenders match. And I don't think Conor's interested in that anymore. I'm going to end this video off by laying out what Conor McGregor's plan is, according to him. He wanted to fight Michael Chandler in June, and then have a turnaround to fight Nate Diaz on UFC 306, Mexican Independent. No. Is it Mexican Independence Day? I'm sorry. It was the Sphere card. I know they're doing something for that. And then he wants to have a Saudi Arabian boxing crossover event against Manny Pacquiao. That was his plan. The UFC is going to hold him on contract so they don't have to do a boxing event. I think it's going to end with him either not doing another fight in the UFC pulling strings and kind of forcing Michael Chandler to fight somebody else while they force Conor to fight somebody that he actually wants to fight that can pull numbers. Or he's just done altogether, and maybe down the road we'll see a Saudi Arabian boxing match from Conor. I'm not saying Conor's done with combat sports, but I think he might be done with the UFC. But we're going to get some Conor McGregor movies. I think we're going to see quite a bit more of Conor McGregor acting. He seems really hyped about it. And I'm happy for him. And with that out of the way, I think that's going to be it for the video. I'm sorry if this one came off a little bit more ranty than usual, but this was definitely a subject matter to get into a little bit. Tell me what you think in the comment section down below, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for daily MMA content. For the past few days, I've been doing at least 2 videos a day. I'm on track to get at least 2 videos today, and if you want to have a suggestion for a video, leave it in the comment section down below. And with that out of the way, adios, guys.